Now, something I often say about autocrats is that a fundamental characteristic of autocrats is that they're actually very shallow people. They don't really have much intellectual and certainly not much emotional depth. And one of the things that happens in the way autocrats work is that they never like receiving bad news. They always find it hard to deal with news that they don't like to hear. So they're regularly in the business of shooting the messenger, literally. Now, this makes them very unreliable, and it makes their country very unreliable in terms of doing business with them. This is why no autocratic country has ever become an economic superpower. It never will be, because you don't really know what you're dealing with. You don't know what the truth is. If you remember, during the days of the Soviet Union, they would always start to talk about how amazing their economy was, how amazing their production levels were, etc. And none of that bore out to be true in the end. And this is what happens with autocrats generally. They're always trying to pretend that there's a new reality out there in which things are a lot better than they are. And this is exactly how Trump is behaving now. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is staffed by 2,000 non-partisan career civil servants. And their job is to do a meticulous scientific job of collecting data from over 100,000 businesses across the country and the US to get a true picture of what's happening in the labour market at any one time. And that is their constant dedicated role. And the head of the Bureau of Labour Statistics doesn't compile the statistics herself. Her job is basically to underwrite and sign off the final report. Now, this recent report from the Bureau of Labour Statistics showed that actually the employment rates in the US are a lot worse than they thought. The amount of people who had received new jobs, who'd gone into new jobs over the last couple of months, was a lot less than previously estimated, about less than a third of what they had thought it was. So the economy, the real world, where real people are receiving and being laid off from jobs, is a lot worse than it appeared to be. Now, this is important information for policymakers. It's important information for governments and businesses around the world in terms of making decisions around how they need to then proceed. And what did Trump do with that information when it was gleaned? He did something that's never been done in US history before. No president has ever taken this action. Instead of taking action of, okay, we need to rethink the policy, we need to think about how our policies are impacting the job market and people's ability to find jobs, we need to do something about this. Instead of that, he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He just arranged for her to be removed from her job. Exactly as any autocrat would do. Too afraid to hear the bad news to actually hear it. Now, whoever he replaces in there, what are they going to do? What are the people in there going to do now? Now they know that the objective, empirical, dispassionate data that they collect to inform the world about the situation of American employment, to inform the American government, to inform policymakers, to inform other businesses of the reality of the economy, is now no longer being heard. What can they do? They can't suddenly now make up a figure and say, oh, actually, yes, there are many more jobs. But that's what Trump wants them to do. And in many respects, this action is even worse than the action he's threatening to take against Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, because he keeps talking about wanting to sack Jerome Powell as the chair of the Fed. And of course, he can't do that. He doesn't have the power to do that, but he's threatening to do it all the time. And he keeps threatening to do that. And there is at least some semblance of logic behind that particular action. Not that he can do it or that he should do it, because if he did it, the markets would tailspin straight away. But if a president tried to change the chairman of the Fed, and it is the president's job to help to reappoint a new one once that person's term is up, but certainly not to sack an incumbent. But any control over that job makes some sense in that the chairman of the Fed actually controls policy. The chairman of the Fed makes decisions that affect the economy. So the president might not like what they're doing. Now, no president will argue openly like the way Trump is doing, because they know it would have a detrimental effect on the economy. And over the last few days, we've actually seen that there has been a significant fall in the stock market and generally in the economy recently because of fears around the way Trump's reckless economic mismanagement is now playing out. So usually people won't, deliberately undermine the chairman of the Fed, but having differences with the chairman of the Fed, wishing there was a different one, has some logic because that person is in control of policy. But the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics doesn't decide any policy at all. This person simply signs off a statistical report that is brought about through a scientific process. So sacking that person makes no sense in terms of having any impact on policy. It just means that Trump is too thin-skinned to hear any bad news about the economy. And the ultimate impact of that is that nobody is going to be able to trust data from there anymore. Nobody's going to be able to use that data to determine how they need to act. Nobody's going to believe American statistics from around the world anymore, because we realize it's now being manipulated by the head, the chief executive of the government, who's effectively saying bad news is banned from this country. And that is one of the most autocratic things you can do. And it's one of the most damaging things you can do to a democracy who depends on trust and reliability between itself and the people, and between itself and its counterparts around the world in order to conduct business. That trust has been eroded in a massive way by this meaningless and senseless act that serves only Trump's ego and does nothing for the health of the economy of America. It just goes to show the extent to which the American economy is truly entering a danger zone now. I hope you like my video. We have a wonderful community of folks here who are subscribers to this channel, so I hope you consider subscribing to the channel too. We're here to support each other in this time of global trauma, and people are passing comments to each other, sharing their experiences and affirming and supporting one another through the comments section of this channel. So I'm really proud of and inspired by the community that we're creating, and I hope you can join us on that basis. Also, I have a mailing list. The link is in the description of the video and the channel. If you can join that, then we can stay in touch by email on an ongoing basis, because let's face it, all these channels are basically owned by a small number of oligarchs, and at any point they could decide that they want to shut a channel like mine down. And if that's the case, then, well, we'll lose touch. So if you can subscribe to my newsletter, then we can stay in touch, and you can stay in touch with my content on an ongoing basis. Finally, I also have the ability to become a member of the channel. It'd be great if you can join us to be a member of the channel. You get regular free ebooks on an ongoing basis. Every month I produce a new ebook, me and my team, that help us understand the psychology of the people in the world around us, but most importantly, help us understand our own psychology too, to help us to navigate this difficult and traumatic period we're going through right now. And in addition, whether you'd become a member of the channel or not, you're also welcome to visit that little bookstore and buy any of the books anytime. It's called russellsbooks.com. That's at russellsbooks.com, and yeah, you can go to that website and buy and download any of the books anytime. But as I say, if you become a member of the channel, you'll get that for free as well. I really hope that we can stay connected. As a psychiatrist and somebody who is also fascinated by politics, I love to make these videos. I hope to continue to do so. I hope to stay connected and continue this ongoing conversation with the audience, so that ultimately we can create a better tomorrow together. Thank you.